And welcome to the 8th episode of Women in Color and Confidence. I'm going to start that over. Hello, and welcome to the 8th episode of Women of Color and Confidence. I am your host, Amber Rose West. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I want to talk about something that has been very important to me and very present in my life, as I believe it has been very present in the life of many Black women, and that is the topic of our hair. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about hair in general. There's so many different things that we could talk about, cover. Mostly, I don't want to speak for other women because I feel like all of us have our own hair journey, and it becomes this interest with the people in our life, and not just the people that you would expect, right? Not just our families or our children, their spouses, but our friends. And then it also becomes this topic at work or at the grocery store or when we're going to vote, right? Like at any time we are present, our hair is also present. And I know that people have so many questions and they find it so fascinating because it is such a beautiful and eclectic world, the world of Black women's hair. But I just finished reading with my book club, So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijima Oluo. And there is a chapter in here titled, Why Can't I Touch Your Hair? And as I was reading this chapter, I was filled with this sense of so many emotions. Let me just be honest, right? There was a sense of, yeah, why do people do that to us? And then there was a sense of, oh my gosh, there's someone else who's having such a similar journey to the journey that I am having. Starting from when we were children up until when we are adults, like this isn't just happening to me, right? And the fact that in a book called So You Want to Talk About Race, there's a whole chapter in here about why you cannot touch my hair. I thought it would be a great episode to just sit and kind of read to you. I feel like Olu did such a good job of expressing in details, not just of her experience with people trying to be with her hair or take control of her hair. But she does a really great job of explaining why it's just not okay to touch us without permission. It's not okay to invalidate our presence by bringing yourself into it without asking, you know? I know so many people who find it to be in their minds, they find it to be such a little thing. It's not that big of a deal, right? And when I explained to them that going to the grocery store and standing in line and literally have the woman behind me just petting me, and yes, saying, it's so beautiful, it's like, that's great, but I'm not a dog, right? That's great, but I didn't invite you to touch me. And at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? When you reach out and grab for somebody and you touch them without asking, it's so violating. And it doesn't matter if it's to compliment you. It doesn't matter if it's to say, this is so beautiful, it's so unique, I love it, right? This is a part of my body that, no, you cannot touch. So I wanted to read this chapter. It's not very long. It's about 5 pages, 6 pages. But I wanted to read it, one, because I really hope that everybody reads this book. It is such a great book. It touches on so many racial topics that really will help you in the conversations that you are having with your friends, your family, your departments, your managers at work, with the organizations that you want to be involved in. This one particularly struck a chord with me because everything that she wrote in this chapter is something that has happened to me, and I know that it has happened to many other Black women out there. So I invite you to come sit with me for reading time. We are going to read chapter 11 called, Why Can't I Touch Your Hair? I love my hair. It's fluffy and curly and big. I've spent years nurturing it to glory. So much care, so many products and hours of YouTube tutorials have left me with hair that I love more than I love candy or cheesecake. I love taking selfies of my hair and talking about my hair. And if you ask, I will probably let you touch it because it's very, very soft. But I wasn't prepared to be talking about my hair on the first day of my new job. I had worked my ass off for a promotion. It was a coveted new position in the company I worked for. I'd beaten out hundreds of my coworkers and even a few of the managers for this role. And after weeks of interviews and sleepless nights, I'd accepted the role and was finally meeting my new team. The rest of the team flew in from around the country for our initial meeting. We met for dinner and drinks that first evening at a local restaurant. In a team of over 20, I was the only Black person at the table, but it didn't really bother me. I was used to that working in the tech industry in Seattle. That's the way it was. We talked about our respective hometowns, about our families, about our excitement over the new jobs. I was smiling and laughing with my team when the director of my division, my boss's boss, spoke loudly from across the table. "Is that your real hair?" he asked. I heard his voice, but his words didn't really register as I was in the middle of a conversation with a coworker about his hometown in the South. But people had stopped talking, and I realized the director was talking to me. I turned my head towards him. I asked. I said, "Is that your real hair?" He repeated himself. If it was possible for a silent table to get even more silent, that's what happened. Everyone stared at me with curiosity while I tried to figure out the best way to answer this question. I decided to go with simplicity. "Yes, it is," I answered, hoping that would be the end of it. "I'm glad it's not one of those weaves," he continued on, giving approval of my personal beauty choice. "Those are so expensive and really bad for your hair." Oh my God. Why is this happening to me? And what prank TV show am I on right now? I smiled weakly. Yeah, hair can be a big deal to some people, hoping that would suffice. Then came the question that I was dreading. Have you seen that Chris Rock movie about hair? No, I haven't seen that Chris Rock movie about hair. I don't need to see a Chris Rock movie about black hair when I have my own head of black hair for a reference. But if I had $1 for every white person who asked me if I'd seen that movie and then proceeded to educate me on the problems of my own damn hair and the hair industry, I'd have enough money to keep myself an Indian Remy for life. A coworker joined in. I saw that movie too. You know, those chemicals people put in their hair are very dangerous. She looked at me with both concern and fascination. I just sat there in silence, reminding myself that I needed this damn job, so I needed to just smile at this man and maybe have another drink. Spending hundreds of dollars a month on your hair. You got bills to pay. It's ridiculous, he continued, oblivious to my great discomfort. I couldn't say any more. I felt like if I were to open my mouth, I might wail. So I just pleasantly stared until my next drink arrived, and my director got bored and moved the conversation back to a teammate sitting next to him. Every month of my childhood, my mom would slather my hair and my scalp with burning chemicals. All the chemical solution worked to break the bonds of the curls in my hair, along with developing a top layer of skin on my scalp. I would try not to cry. It hurts. I would complain to my mother, to which my mother would reply, "Do you want it straight or not?" And I did want my hair straight. While my mom preferred my hair in its naturally curly, kinky state, I wanted long, straight hair. I wanted the hair I saw on shampoo commercials, the hair I saw in magazines, the hairs that boys would want to run their fingers through. I didn't want my stiff, coarse hair that didn't move in the breeze. I didn't want my hair that kids called nappy and ugly. I wanted to be a beautiful girl, and beautiful girls didn't have hair like mine. So every month I tried to burn the blackness out of my hair, and I would then run a hot comb over it, ignoring the stench of burning protein while trying to avoid further injury to my bleeding and scabbed scalp. And still my hair didn't sway in the breeze, and it never grew below my shoulders without breaking off in burned clumps. But I didn't have the money for the best solution, the solution of just covering up my hair, that it refused to be beautiful with long flowing hair of unknown origins. So I had to settle for stiff hair, burnt, sprayed, and pinned into poor replicas of the styles I saw in magazines. By the time I reached the age of 30, I had no memory of what my natural hair looked like. All I knew was the disappointment I felt when I looked in the mirror. When natural hair started to become popular again, I took a leap and cut my chemically processed hair off. I was not comfortable with very short hair, and I spent an entire year feeling self-conscious. But I love a project, and I made loving my hair a personal goal. I set to it and succeeded. And as my hair grew out into these fluffy coils, I was finally proud of what I saw when I looked in the mirror. My hair still wasn't what I saw in commercials or in the magazines, but it was mine. No longer dictated by the preferences of white America, and it was beautiful. And after decades of pain associated with my hair, after decades of self-consciously patting it down after it became too puffy in the rain, after decades of damage and manipulation, after finally breaking free from the expectations, after resisting the pressure to conform, my hair was still a source of shame. Here was my director singling me out in front of my coworkers, not to shame me, but to shame other Black women for making different choices than I was now making. To shame other Black women for spending a lot of money to not have the embarrassing and demeaning conversations I was now being forced to have. He wanted me to know that he approved of my hair that finally was existing outside of his beauty norms. But still, he thought that my hair, growing on my head from my body, was within his jurisdiction. Still, my hair would be a tool of oppression, even if it was to belittle other Black women. My hair still existed for his use. Even then, even in a state as removed from whiteness as it could be, my hair was not my own. If you are white, there's a good chance that I know almost as much about your hair as you do. I know how to wash it and condition it. I know all the different styles you can use. I know about mousse and hairspray and fishtail braids and the sea salt spray you can use to create that tousled look. I know about all the brushes and the combs and the teasings and the blowouts, because your hair is everywhere in every movie and television show. There are detailed how-tos in every fashion magazine. The hair of a famous white woman has become a style sensation. I remember the Rachel, because your hair is good hair. Your hair is the hair represented in the hair care aisles at stores. Your hair is the shining example of health in shampoo commercials. But it is very likely, if you are not Black, that you know very little about my hair. You do not know about my pomades and my co-wash, my Denmans and my hot combs, my bantu knots and my braid outs. You don't know why I need so many bobby pins, why I put oil over my hair, why wash day is indeed an entire day. Because my hair is not the stuff of commercials or of fashion fantasies. My hair is a mystery on my head, just beyond your reach. I catch people staring longingly at my curls, wanting desperately to make the reach. If I know and like the person, and if I'm in a good mood and my style will withstand it, I sometimes offer up a feel to a curious friend. It's okay, you can touch it, I say, quickly adding, but don't get any ideas. But often, I don't let people touch my hair. Those who do without asking will receive a range of responses depending on how safe I feel to speak out. But you'll never ever get a smile from me for it. I've had clerks touch my hair at stores, servers touch my hair at restaurants, bosses touch my hair at company parties, and it's never okay because they never get permission. I'm not the only Black person who has a special dislike for uninvited hair touching. When I asked my friends of color what some of their least favorite microaggressions were, hair touching came up time and time again with my Black friends. We do not like it, and it is happening far too often. Hair is biologically dead the moment it begins to grow out of your head. It has no feeling, no sentience. To cut off our hair would not cause us any physical pain. So why is hair touching such a big deal? Here are some reasons. Touching anybody anywhere without their permission or a damn good reason is just not okay. We teach our kids about personal space for a reason. If you wouldn't walk up and touch a random person on the back, why would you touch their hair? Don't touch people who do not want to be touched. It's weird. Hair is growing out of someone's body, coated in different beauty products and a fair amount of sweat and oil. Touching someone else's hair is weird and gross. Everybody seems to get that when someone else's hair is found somewhere. If you find your hair on a seat, on a hotel pillow, in your food, anywhere except on the hair of a Black person. Hands are dirty. You didn't wash them. Get them and all the germs on them away from my hair that is literally inches away from my face. Curls are precious. That hairstyle that you were trying to send your hands into took more time than your life is worth. Okay, not really, but try me and see. Strangers' hands bring fuzz and destroy curl patterns, and I will not have that. It is a continuation of the lack of respect for the basic humanity and bodily autonomy of Black Americans that is endemic throughout white supremacy. Allow me to elaborate. Since the first Black Americans were brought over as slaves, our bodies were not our own. We were objects, property. Our bodies were curiosities and tools to be inspected and exploited. Our bodies were sources of judgment and shame, but they were never beautiful, and they were never our own. Whatever respect we could get in white America came from how closely we could get our bodies to resemble those of white people. If our mothers were raped by white men and we were born with lighter skin, we could almost be seen as attractive. If our hair was pressed and stiff and straight with burning irons, or irreparably broken with toxic chemicals, we might be seen as a credit to our race. We were, after all, trying to be less Black. And we tried to express ourselves within these rules, tried to enjoy our bodies and our hair within these rules. But mostly, we just wanted to go about our day without the reminder that our body and our hair are found to be brutish or ugly or fascinating or exotic. We still live in a country where our hair is seen as wild or unattractive, as unprofessional, and as ghetto. We still live in a country where our hair can cost us our jobs, even our place in the military. We still live in a country where our hair determines how professional we seem, how respectable we seem, even how intelligent we seem. Our hair is used to help determine our place in a white supremacist society. I'm almost finished. I thought I was going to get through it without crying. It's very true. It's painful. If you are not Black and you are tired of hair like mine being a mystery to you, there are a lot of ways to get to know more about our hair. You could ask why more Black people with Black hair aren't in more television shows and movies. You could ask why there are no how-tos for our hair in your magazines. You could ask why our hair products have to take up one tiny section in a completely different aisle in the store. You could ask why our hair isn't called beautiful, why our hairstyles aren't the ones you're coveting. But instead, you assume that you can just touch it. Because it's not about equality or even understanding. It's about reaffirming that nothing and nobody is beyond your grasp. Or maybe it's not that serious. Maybe you just want to know if our hair is as soft and as fluffy as you imagined it to be. And trust me, it's even softer. But you still don't get to touch it, not without my permission. Because we live in a world where little respect and autonomy is granted to Black people, where we are constantly reminded of how little control over our lives we have. So maybe for now, you set your curiosity aside and allow someone the space to determine who does or doesn't touch their hair without labeling them rude, sensitive, or dismissive. If you have a loving, trusting relationship with a Black person and you are sure they won't mind if you ask to touch their hair, you can consider it. But really consider what it is that you are asking. Even though it's just hair, just piles of keratin, as long as our hair and our bodies are judged and controlled and violated by white supremacy, it will always be so much more than just asking to touch our hair. There's a lot in there, but I think it answers a lot of questions that people have about hair touching also. I didn't expect to get so emotional, but it is one of those things that does bring me a lot of emotion because it is something that I experience on a regular basis. Even still, since the last time it happened to me before I went into quarantine, I was in my office and a vendor came in, and literally as I was looking through the appointment book to see where she was having her meeting, she just grabbed my hair from behind. And I turned and looked, it's just so beautiful. Uh-huh. And would you ever do that to a man at work? Would you ever do that to a white woman or a woman of your same race? Or is it just okay because it's me, right? So I hope that you enjoyed that reading. Again, I highly, highly recommend that you read So You Want to Talk About Race. And if you are white, I ask that you go into reading it with an open mind, to allow your defensiveness to be set down while you are reading this book. I know that a lot of the criticism for this book is about people feeling like she's just whining about her experiences. It's a mix of the author's experience and a lot of research that has gone on to why they're problematic and why they become really difficult to talk about when we are talking to people in our lives about race. And so I ask you to read it with an open mind, an open heart, setting aside any defensiveness that you may feel and just hearing the stories, because they are amazing enough for me to read this chapter to you on women of color and confidence. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for everyone who watched on the live show. And we will see you all in the upcoming weeks. In November, we're going to be having shows that are about family and all different aspects of family. I'm still finalizing the show for next week and the week beyond. So hang tight with me. We will get there. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a great rest of your night.